We have lots to discuss in today's video, including the latest rumors around the NHL. We're exactly 1 month away from the NHL trade deadline as of tomorrow, and today we're taking a look at all the latest around certain teams, including a couple of big moves around the Montreal Canadiens. They're looking for a young center. We have a couple of names they've been closely monitoring. We're also taking a look at the Anaheim Ducks, the St. Louis Blues, the New York Islanders, as well as the Columbus Blue Jackets. We also have news from the NHL waiver wire and some more intel around the Brandon Saad signing in Vegas. Several other teams were hard in pursuit after the veteran forward. Who missed out and who else might be looking for a similar move if another player like that becomes available. All that plus some updates on the Four Nation Face-Off rosters, including some key injuries like Sidney Crosby and Quinn Hughes coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As you can see, I'm certainly not in my normal location here for recording. I'm on the road at a hotel. I actually enjoyed the Canada versus USA Women's Rival Series game in Halifax this evening. It was a terrific game. We actually get to see a 1-1 tie that went to overtime, followed by a shootout, with the U.S. ultimately taking the game in the shootout portion of the game. A great game, and certainly encourage you all to get out and watch either the Rival Series or the PWHL if you have an opportunity to. Certainly lots of good hockey to be seen outside of the NHL as well. Obviously lots of other news around the NHL here today. On the waiver wire, we had the Tampa Bay Lightning placing goaltender Brandon Halverson, who they recently just signed to an NHL contract. The veteran minor league netminder got a new contract just a few days ago, and in order to go back and play for the minor league team after being signed, he does need waivers to do so. So obviously that's why he is being put through that now. He likely is going to clear, but we'll find out for sure tomorrow. Some other updates around the rosters and injuries and such things. The Nashville Predators today recalled Joakim Kemmel, so Kemmel will get his first taste of NHL action this evening. The Leafs activated goalie Anthony Stolarz, who's been out of action for an extended time, so it's good to see him back. Goaltender Matt Murray has been returned back to the American Hockey League. The Lightning tonight were without Anthony Cirelli in their second game of in a row against the Senators, so they recalled Connor Sherry in his absence. Sidney Crosby, of course, we know, was injured in the Penguins' last game, missed practice yesterday. He was skating today on his own, joined the team for practice, apparently did a few drills, but didn't do like a full participation. So there's still a lot of concern over what's going on with him, if it's going to impact his availability for the Four Nation Face-Off coming up here next week. I know on TSN Insider Trading they were talking about it, and basically what the intel was that it's pretty secretive. Nobody really knows for sure what's going on with Sid or exactly what he's dealing with precisely. So as far as his availability goes, it's kind of a big secret at this point. I would think the Penguins will let him make that call. And like I said before, when he first was hurt the other night, I think if he's able to play, he'll even fight through it if he can, because I'm sure he's been looking forward to this for so long, and he's in a different situation than some players where their team, like in the Penguins, they know they're likely not going to be a playoff team. I think he'll do what's right for him personally, put his own self above the Penguins. The Penguins season, I think, is pretty fair to say is lost at this point, but at the same time, he's not going to want to drag Canada down either, right? He's a ultimate team player in that sense. So be curious to see how things work out. But Crosby's health is definitely being monitored for sure. Quinn Hughes, apparently, of the Canucks, is expected to likely rejoin his team and play Saturday against the Leafs. The Canucks GM Patrick Allvin was asked about this, and so basically said that Quinn's a pro, knows his body best, and will be able to make his own decision about his availability in the Four Nations too. So at this point, if he can play for the Canucks on Saturday, I suspect he'll probably play for USA, but you never know. Certainly some other defensemen like Jake Sanderson are waiting in the wings to see if a spot's going to open up. I think there's also some concern about Zach Werenski. We'll find out about his availability here too. One thing that was mentioned by Elliot Friedman today in his 32 Thoughts written column, we know Brandon Saad, of course, recently became available from the St. Louis Blues, becoming a UFA after getting terminated from his contract. We knew there was at least a handful of teams that are in pretty serious pursuit of the veteran. He ultimately ended up signing with Vegas. In his article today, Friedman does mention that the Leafs and Senators were both hardcore after him, as well as New Jersey. So you got to think where the fact that they didn't end up getting the player here at the end of it, that they're probably, if there's another move like that becomes available, or the trade market, that they're definitely going to be looking pretty seriously. Certainly in Ottawa's case, after getting some recent injuries here in the past couple of games, dropping 2 in a row to Tampa, I wouldn't be shocked to see GM Steve Staios do something before they return from the Four Nation break. The team certainly needs a jolt, whether it's getting players back from injury, getting healthy, or getting a new body in the mix here. But they certainly could use some much more better luck, you could say, with Norris and Pinto both going out in consecutive games. Not good for the center depth for sure. There are other lower level depth players have played well, but a little bit over their heads against the Lightning team, and they play the Panthers on Saturday before the break. Be curious to see what happens in that sense. Apparently, there is a possibility Pinto could be back on Saturday. He hasn't been completely ruled out, but we really don't know a lot about the injury, so they're being pretty secretive on that front too, so we'll have to wait and see where things go. So, obviously, like I said, these teams were in on Saad pretty hard, so they're definitely interested in that type of player. They could be looking in the trade market for something similar if something like that comes up here. As well. As far as the rumor mill goes, I mean, one team to watch is going to be Columbus. Don Waddell's been on the record now saying that this team has certainly exceeded expectations, has dealt with a lot of adversity, of course, after everything that happened before the season even started, and find themselves in the mix here for a playoff spot. Not guaranteed. They don't have a lot of breathing room. Some days they're in a playoff spot. Some days they're just on the outside, depending on the day and if they won or lost. The Jackets don't have a great winning record on the road, so depending on their schedule, it'll probably go up and down here a little bit. But Don Waddell says the team has done well enough that he owes it to them to give them some sort of at least a moderate level rental addition. So I suspect we're going to see Waddell and the Blue Jackets try to do something to add some help to this team. It doesn't have to be like anything super high end. They're probably not going to be going after the absolute top talent on the market right now, but a capable scoring forward who can play top 9 minutes, for example, could be something that they're looking at. So certainly expect the veteran general manager to help his team out here after everything they've been through and after all the adversity they face, and the fact that they're coming out and still hanging around the playoffs is quite something that's good to see, and expect them to get some help as well. On TSN Insider Trading tonight, they were talking about the possibility of Blues captain Braden Schenn maybe being available as well. We know that the Blues are kind of slowly fading away here into the in the Western Conference playoff race. They, again, a handful of wins, they're right back in the mix, but it's looking more and more likely that the Blues may not be a playoff team. We know Doug Armstrong is not afraid to make bold, aggressive moves, and he's not afraid to add or subtract even when his team is kind of a borderline playoff team. If he doesn't think they can be cup contenders, he's not afraid to tinker with that roster. And the latest intel suggests that Braden Schenn, their team captain, could be available. Now, of course, on Insider Trading on TSN, they talked about this possibility. Doesn't mean for sure he's going to be moved. I think based on the intel, that it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a big offer. Might be more than what some teams are willing to pay, but he is an ultimate competitor. Has a lot of drive, a lot of passion, a lot of determination, a lot of those intangibles that you don't see. He was mentioned in Insider Trading on TSN about somebody that the Leafs could target, because we know that they obviously have targeted a lot of third-line centermen, and they even have had some peeks at other, members here of the St. Louis Blues. So, and former Blue, Ryan O'Reilly is a player that they've looked at as well, who obviously played with them around the deadline briefly before. So it's hard to say exactly what happens there, but the Leafs are definitely have an interest. They definitely want to try to make a move to make an addition, and they could be a team that Schenn ends up, but he's going to have all the say. He does have a no move clause. So if Braden Schenn and the Blues talk about it and decide it's best for him to move on, then I would expect Toronto to be very much in the market to try to see what they could do. It's not going to come cheap, though. And as they talked about it on Insider Trading, they could determine that as much as they're willing to entertain calls, and that he might prove that there's too much of an asking price that teams may not be willing to pay right now, and that could keep him in St. Louis here a little bit longer. But at the end of the day, they're certainly going to be looking to figure out what they can do to make the team better, even if it makes an aggressive move, moving one of their fan favorite players. Now, another name that's going to be interesting to watch as well is Islander centerman Brock Nelson. There seems to be a conflicting number of reports out there, depending on who you ask and who the sources are, whether or not he's going to be dealt. There are some that are convinced he's not, some that are convinced he's almost guaranteed to be, and I guess depending on how you feel about it, might depend on who you believe. But at the end of the day, we've seen reports suggesting that Lou Lamoriello may not trade his pending UFA, that he may sign him. Again, I think a lot of people, I've looked at this team and seen them kind of spinning their wheels the last couple of years. They're having some, at least minor issues for sure. So it was soon to be bigger ones with attendance. They're in a situation where they need to do something, kind of interesting here. The Islanders are a team that has been stuck in mediocrity for sure. Now, like we said though, Lou can be stubborn, and Lou may not pull the trigger on a deal. There's some people that are convinced that Lou wants to sign Nelson to a long-term deal and not really retool this team. Now, John Buccigross of ESPN said that he's heard it's a worst-kept secret in hockey that Brock Nelson will sign as a UFA in Minnesota next year. So that would be a homecoming for him. If he is traded, Winnipeg makes a ton of sense as well. But clearly, is Bucci onto something here? I don't know. A lot of other people are convinced that the Islanders are not going to trade him, and there's still some that think that it's more likely that he will. So given all the different opinions out there, it's really difficult to say what happens with Nelson, but he's definitely going to be an interesting player to watch. I mean, we've been under the belief here for some time that he probably is going to be traded, but really the Islanders are a tough team to read. Mixed reports out there. We'll have to wait and see for sure. Now, in Montreal's case, could they be looking at a couple of different options for some young centermen? We've talked about Montreal being one of the teams in on Dylan Cousins, but there's some other centermen, according to an article from RG.com and Marco D'Amico, that they're also taking a look at and could prove to be more cost-effective here as well. And that would include Trevor Zegras of the Anaheim Ducks and Casey Mittelstadt of the Colorado Avalanche. Now, if you take a look at their contracts and where those sit, clearly it's not going to be, a cheap acquisition for Montreal if they pull off this move, but at the same time, it's not going to be, super expensive either. Now, the problem is who in Montreal would come out? What would they possibly offer? What would they give up? That would be the challenging part. They're certainly going to have to make it interesting for them for sure. It wouldn't be shocking if Montreal does make this type of move, if Kirby Dach is something they consider, including certainly somebody who's had a bit of a down year. I think it's fair to say that they're, a little bit concerned about Slafkovsky, but I don't think they're anywhere near the point where they're pulling the trigger on a trade for him. So reports from Dave Pagnotta do indicate that the Ducks are certainly willing to entertain talks again on Zegras. We know for sure that reports indicate the Avalanche are more than willing to move Mittelstadt, looking for a number 2 center upgrade. So could be an opportunity here for Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton to maybe get some distressed assets at a reduced cost and see if they can fit with Montreal. Like I said, Kent Hughes looking to make some moves. Kirby Dach, to me, wouldn't be shocking if he was made available for this type of trade. But again, hard to say for sure. Certainly somebody who's got lots to say. Obviously, we know Trevor Zegras is an interesting character. Has been kind of through the ringer of the rumor mill here in recent weeks, but it's been a little while since there's been a lot of talk about Zegras. But obviously, things are starting to heat up here again now that he's been back for a little while. So, your thoughts on Trevor Zegras, Casey Mittelstadt, maybe being future Montreal Canadiens, as well as all the other rumors we took a look at here today as well. I'll be heading home tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's content down in the comments below. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.